Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Wednesday, September 21st, 2022. And tonight, we will be talking about contact with aliens. As always, you can find all the episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to donate, and ways to contact me at the podcast page. And that is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or stories of paranormal experiences. Whether they're your own or from others that you trust, happy to either read them or have you join me on the show to talk about them. And just because of the topic for tonight, I'm going to say this again. I'm looking for any and all paranormal stories. And as long as they fit the format of the show, which means basically just as family friendly as possible, then I will share them. So thank you all for being here and or for listening to the podcast or YouTube feeds. Always appreciate it, and the numbers are still going up, so that is really amazing. Thank you all. So this show has been in the making for a while, and we'll get into the details of why that's important, I think, as we get into this. But I am not doing this show alone. So I want to welcome Derek to the show.
Hey, sorry, I was coughing there for a second. Can you hear me?
No, yeah, you're right, good.
Awesome. I'm doing the recording out here from outside, hoping to get beamed up here as we talk about alien communication. So hope everyone can tolerate a little bit of cricket noise and stuff. But I'm excited for tonight for sure.
No, you're good. Let's not have you get beamed up right away, though.
Just at least wait till the end of the show. Yeah.
I mean, no, let's just not have you get beamed up. I mean, unless they do appear to be friendly, but
yeah, true. Good point. At least a sighting maybe would be fun. Nice live sighting during the show could be very exciting.
I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility with the ones I've had lately.
I know. Exactly. Do you want to start the episode like recapping the UFO stories, how this all got started, or how do you want to take it?
Yeah, I could do that. And it's funny because we had talked about doing the show about almost 3 months ago now.
Oh yeah.
And just because of all kinds of reasons we delayed and it worked out okay though, because
definitely.
I had all these sightings in between. I had the first one about 2.5 months ago, 2 months ago. And I just happened to be getting the mail at about 3:15 in the morning and saw what I thought was a star outside. And I was thinking about this topic, really, and about how it would be amazing if that was more than just a drone or a plane or a star or a planet, and about how it would kind of take some kind of telepathic contact for me to really know that it was something like that. That was something that was not just ordinary.
Yeah.
And as I was thinking about that, and I was walking behind this one little tree that's in front of the mailboxes, when I came out from behind this tree, and it must have taken no more than like 2 seconds, I looked up again because I was seeing the star, and that's unusual for me. I normally don't see stars.
Yeah.
The moon, yes, sometimes, but usually not stars or even planets, usually. But this thing had changed color from a star color, orange yellow kind of color, to a light blue. Wow. And it stayed there the whole time. And I just had this feeling of like a presence from this thing, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And that's the first sighting, and I've had a few more since then. And the last 3 nights in a row, I've had sightings of this thing.
Wow, incredible. And like the thing about it is like it's always in kind of the same. It's the spot it's in is always in like trying to make direct contact with you. Kind of. It's not like a star or a planet where it's kind of like meandering around the sky in a pattern that you'd be able to recognize. Oh, that's just a star moving slowly. This thing is like changing directions as you're moving from your place to the laundry, like, et cetera, et cetera. It's clearly following you and like clearly trying to engage with you in particular, which is like fascinating to me, really cool to me.
And possibly only me, because of
yeah, exactly.
last night, which was odd because I went outside. It was about one, a little bit after 1 in the morning here
Yeah.
on the East Coast. I'm in Michigan, and I saw it, but then not long after I saw it in the sky, it started to fade.
Mm.
And at the same time, I started hearing a car driving
Oh
through the
wow.
complex,
Wow.
and the light faded completely by the time that car turned into my court.
Oh wow. It really trips me out. Like we'll get into all the different possible types of communication and stuff, but just what type of being or what type of technology is that thing using? Where it like I don't know. Is it like it really makes my mind kind of go into pretzel. Is it like always? Is it like a technology where it's kind of always just scanning the masses and it will detect people who are like thinking about them or something like that? Or is it more of like a spiritual component, like more kind of like a direct like paranormal component where it's like linked to actual people where people can kind of be things that are attracting this phenomena and stuff? Like what are we actually dealing with here? It really really trips me out.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't see it Sunday morning. I saw it Monday, Tuesday, and then this morning.
Yeah.
So it's not. I don't think it's there every night all the time necessarily. Of course, I don't know that now because I didn't. I only started going out there once a night. Just last Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So we'll see how often it's out there. But I don't think it's been out there every night. At least not before.
Yeah, and
Um,
the fact that it wasn't there, it was there one night, wasn't there, and then was there again, proves to me that it's definitely not a planet or definitely not a star. Because then it would be there every night because there'd be a bright star or a bright planet in the same spot every night. This thing is definitely anomalous for sure.
it is
Um,
because I've never seen it here before. Like in the
yeah,
16 years I've been here, I've never seen it there before.
it's incredible. I actually have a small UFO story too from this past weekend. Want me to tell
Eh,
that one real quick?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. I forgot to ask if you wanted to share that tonight or not. But yeah, sure, go ahead.
It's not that great, and I'll try to find the pictures in my camera roll maybe after the show or when I have a second. But so I'm sitting outside during the day. It's probably like 3 in the afternoon range, um, and I work overnight for everybody who doesn't know me. So I'm just kind of waiting to go to sleep, or I just woken up and I was kind of just killing time, like waiting to get to work. But it was not a day off. I don't think. And I'm just sitting there, and full disclosure, I was smoking a little bit, but not a big deal. But I only say that for the duration of time where I saw this thing. So I'm sitting down, I look up, and in this like I have a clear view of a bunch of trees and then a good amount of sky from where I sit every day. And straight ahead, like basically, I just lift my head up and kind of straight ahead up. There's a big gap in between all the trees and all the leaves, and just a big patch of blue sky. The entire sky is blue, virtually no clouds at all. And I see this white kind of like speck or like dot or orb or whatever in the sky. It's like not plane shape, and it wasn't moving. And I'm like, what am I looking at right now? And I'm thinking, is it like a hawk? Is it like a bird? Because sometimes we have a lot of hawks around here, and like sometimes they'll go really really high up, and they'll just kind of like catch the air and kind of just float around. But they do like very tight circles, and you can kind of tell that they're moving and tell that they're doing circles. This thing was clearly completely stationary. I'm like, what is going on? So uh, I'm sitting there for like the entire duration of the rest of like my spliff, which was like 10, 15 minutes worth of time, periodically just staring at this thing. It's not moving, it's staying right there. I end up taking a couple pictures of it, knowing that it's not going to like really show up in the pictures, but just in case, I wanted to see if maybe if I change the filter around, it'll show something. So I took a few pictures of it. I realized that I have some binoculars in my car. So I run inside, I grab my keys, come back outside. It's still there. I go to the car, grab the binoculars, come back, and it's gone. I'm like,
Ah,
that's weird. Like that's weird. So at first I was thinking like, am I seeing like a planet during the day? Like am I just seeing some kind of bright like the moon is out during the day sometimes. That's a regular thing. So am I just seeing like a really really bright planet during the day or something like that? But no, it was like it was there 1 second and gone the next, and it was there for 15 minutes. And when I had zoomed in on my phone, kind of messing around with the pictures, it might just be the pixelation of the pictures, but it looked kind of like a rectangle or kind of like blockish a little bit. So I don't know. I don't know what that was. And it wasn't like an incredible sighting, but it was definitely I was sitting here long enough to like not be able to just kind of sweep it away. It was definitely something weird that I can't explain in the sky for sure. It's a definition of a UFO, whether it was an alien, I don't know, but I can't identify it for sure.
Right, and I remember you shared pictures over in the Trouble Minds Discord live after that happened,
Yeah,
and that was really neat. I do love that aspect of just being able to report that online among
for sure.
friends, you know,
Yeah,
when it happens. So
I'll try.
yeah,
I'll try to find the pictures in a couple minutes, but just they're probably kind of buried in my camera roll here. But
no problem. Yeah, that's amazing that you had, and that's only what your second, really, like
basically,
overall.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's that weird little plasma being sighting that I talked about before, which is kind of a hit scratcher, but that was more like eye level than it was like up in the sky.
right.
Um, and then there was one at the time where like my old boss. This is a quick one, but like my old boss, like I got into like aliens and like paranormal phenomena and everything when we started working together. And he went from like having a tangential knowledge of like he saw ancient aliens a couple times maybe and like watched ghost hunters and stuff a couple times maybe to like getting multiple 2 hour long MUFON interviews. Like MUFON came to his house and interviewed him multiple times because he believed he was sitting on a portal spot because he had all the phenomena that was coming to his house. It was pretty crazy. And he lived like right next to a reservation area, and like we hiked around the woods and stuff, and like found some creepy like artifacts and that kind of stuff. But one time we were it was like a night off, and it was like me and his family and like his neighbors, um, uh, and like his neighbors' kids and stuff. So we were all kind of just like sky watching during the summer. And his kid was like probably this kid was probably like 10 or 11, like the neighbor's son or whatever,
Mhm.
probably 10 or 11, but like a really smart kid, but like weirdly extremely skeptical. Like didn't believe anything weird for like, and it was like funny to me because he was like a little kid, but he just like refused to believe anything weird. He's like, no, aliens aren't real, UFOs aren't real. But then we're looking up at the sky, like all of us, everyone, like probably 10 of us, and all of a sudden we're looking at these two stars that just start like rotating around each other, just doing like these circles around each other. And all of a sudden he immediately like looks up at his dad and he's like, "What is that?" And like you just see his eyes, like his whole first 11 years of his life, he's like rethinking everything he thought. You know, it was pretty crazy. I forget about it sometimes, like the fact that happened, but it just kind of popped in my head. But I want like a amazing one. I want like a big one that I can't really dismiss. You know, um, but that's basically it for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Matt's all in chat says it's unidentified flying and it's an object. It's a
Yeah,
UFO to
exactly.
me.
Hey,
Yeah.
everybody in the chat too, by the way.
Yes, thank you all for being here. And that brings up the idea of this contact, whatever it is,
Yeah,
possibly of maybe telepathic or at least of monitoring maybe people from out there somewhere. I wonder if it's not telepathic, then what is it? Is it just
exactly.
extremely good, some kind of vision that's just super sensitive?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. I mean,
I don't know, but the contact is just amazing.
yeah, like the telepathic part. Like we can go through like all these kind of links and stuff if you want in a second. But just as far as like the telepathic aspect of it, yeah, it really is it the line of thinking where like magic and these type of crazy like anomalous phenomena from our vantage point is in this like science is indistinguishable from magic from a certain level. Like there's whatever we're dealing with is a technology society that's just way beyond us, and it seems very like otherworldly to us, or like it's like superpowers basically. But just with the telepathy in particular, like how would that translate into a technology? Like what I'm trying to visualize in my mind's eye, like is it a UFO flying around with this giant like map of the whole planet with kind of these little like light dots representing every person, and just when somebody starts to think about the aliens or like try to make contact, then their little thing starts to glow and then they go and try to make contact with it, or like how would a technology like that even work? And so are we dealing with like an advanced species that like evolved physically to adapt like an actual telepathy? So is it like people have that when like the feeling of being stared at, like we're in with if somebody is like behind you on the bus or whatever and is looking at you, you turn around, or that happens all the time when I used to work during the day at the store. But I'd be like just like stocking shelves during the day, and they'd be like hundreds and hundreds of people who'd walk by my aisle every day. and I wouldn't keep turning my head to look at everybody who walked by, but the ones who were like noticed me or were like thinking about me or like knew out or were like, oh, I'm about to walk by Derek's aisle now, then I would turn my head. It's like something about like the act of thinking about me or noticing me or whatever, or just like I registered in their mind, so it gave that some type of psychic tingle that allowed me to like turn my head over. And I feel like the feeling of being watched thing is a pretty universal sensation. That's kind of like a sixth sense that pretty much everybody has basically. So just kind of extrapolate on that and kind of like crank that up to 11. And are we dealing with that type of thing where they can feel when somebody's trying to make contact, like some kind of psychic itch, and, or just I really don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, it makes me think, and any comic book fans will get this reference. Is it Xavier or is it
Yeah.
Cerebro?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it
Cerebro is a
the
great example. Yeah, that's exactly
person that
right.
has the powers, or is it the machine that gives the person or augments the person's powers, or is it both?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And like it's tough too. Like, I don't want to get like it's tough to like I don't want to mix the angels with the aliens and that kind of stuff, but just it does have similar connotations to just idea of praying of prayer or just like having your messages be received from some omnipotent force that just exists somewhere. It's like always around somehow. Um, so like not saying that we're dealing with angels or whatever, but it's just something that's like celestial in scope. That's like kind of outside of our grasp of understanding at the current time. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
APOC in the chat says that's an interesting concept, Derek. Also, what if each of us have something like this, an orb, light, something that we're entangled with, and when our consciousness reaches a, let me see here, place of readiness, it comes to us from wherever it's positioned.
yeah,
Share experiences or knowledge or something. Yeah.
yeah, like a almost like a guardian angel, like a guardian orb type of thing. Like a yeah, it's a trippy idea. It kind of ties into like theosophy a little bit too with like their idea of kind of like spiritism and stuff, which is another form of alien contact. At some point, it was tied in with the whole otherworldly entity contact and stuff. And Helena Blavatsky, she was like she in the like, theosophy movement actually like influenced Lovecraft and like a lot of his stuff too, and like the idea of some type of ascended masters or some type of like just kind of your own divine higher self or some type of divine guardian that's like coming to teach you or to ascend your consciousness to a place where you can like graduate to also become an ascended master, right? And the idea of like the invisible college in that way, or like so it's a I don't know. The people don't like to mix the spiritual with the UFO stuff, but it's just tough not to sometimes. It's just a lot of weirdness in the mix.
Yeah, I feel like at this point we really have to question, what are ghosts, what are aliens?
Yeah, exactly.
I think they can be many different things, and I think they can be both or parts of both. Also in the chat, APOC says or part of us, referring to the orb. So maybe these things are sensing the energy orb within each of us, and when it gets to a certain point, that's when they make contact. And that seems possible. Just going back to my experiences, I did also try to take a picture of that thing,
Yeah,
but it didn't really appear on the screen. Obviously, though, that was like on a flip phone screen, so there wasn't a lot of options
yeah,
to mess with. But also, I'm didn't really want to try because I'm legally blind and I know pictures are not really my thing.
yeah.
So I just figured I'd try it on an off chance, but it was not there on the screen at all. I mean, it
Yeah.
was just not there.
The picture stuff is it's really weird, and it really makes you think about the technology too of them. It's how it doesn't. It's like our technology seems like it's pretty far ahead, but we can't even take pictures of these things, and that might be part of the phenomena itself. The fact that nobody can get a clear photo of them. So like, and just like the iPhone phones, like cameras, try taking a picture of like a giant full moon and see what you get. You just get this little tiny glowy dot that's basically nothing. So the idea of being able to catch an orb, it's like a losing battle sometimes. So when I like tried to take a picture of this white thing that was in the sky during the day, the other day. Part of me was just I just want to like get it so I can change the filter and see if there's something there that's like beyond just this white dot, you know? Because like my boss, like one of the reasons why he got interviewed by MUFON a couple of times is that like one of his examples was he was just there was this one spot that we thought was like the center of this portal region, like the center hotspot area. It's this like field of reeds kind of. We were like standing kind of over this ridge, and like, he just like decided to take a bunch of pictures randomly, uh, because he listened in a podcast saying that like just take pictures if you get a feeling, and then mess around with it later on. And you might not see anything in real life, but the camera might pick it up later. So he just like did that on a whim. And I was like messing around with it like on break at work, like the next night or whatever, and like changed the filter, and this like speck popped up, and he kept zooming in, and it's like this like clear saucer, this clear metal saucer, almost like a old timey 50s style saucer. If you would like to search like 50s flying saucer, like on Google Images, it's like something that you would get from there. It almost like seemed fake, but I saw him like find it like organically, and I was just like, what is that? You know, like it's so on my old phone, I have all the images that I can do it like myself. Like it doesn't appear at all in the regular picture. You like change the whatever the filter is, like the sepia or it's like an inverts the light or whatever it is. And then it's just all of a sudden this little speck kind of like the sky turns from blue to like dark, and this little kind of speck pops up, and they keep zooming in, and you get this like clear metal disc. And I'm just like, what is that? And it's like he's his paradigm is like he's expecting to see a metal disc, whereas like I'm not as much expecting to see a metal disc. So it's like they almost gave him what he was expecting to see. And I don't know, this the whole phenomena. The more we dig into it, the more questions I end up having. You know?
Yeah, and I think that is also part of it. I think that's why I always say I don't think there is any one answer to all this stuff
Exactly. Yeah.
because different people report different kinds of sightings. That different people report orbs, or they report actual metal craft, or orbs that look like they're made of metal. I
Yeah.
mean, there's all kinds of variants, and yeah, the picture thing as well. I've heard this one other show that I've been on once, and I listened to Where Did the Road Go?
Yeah.
I mentioned this before. The idea that the host Soraya had that in a lot of cases, I think it's infrared.
Yeah.
There's infrared filters, and I think I've heard this before from maybe APOC as well. Um, I'm terrible at remembering, so I apologize. But and just the idea that maybe people won't see these things in natural lighting or with their own eyes, but then when they use some kind of an infrared or night vision or just different energy settings for different energies,
Exactly.
then they'll see these things, and that to
Yeah.
me is amazing as well.
Yeah. So yeah, it's fascinating because that's what the Tic Tac footage, like that's the famous UFO footage that got the government and got like the New York Times to start talking about UFOs and taking it seriously, was like recorded using the infrared footage. And I think like somebody on the Roosevelt, like the ship, saw something in real life or whatever. But I think for the most part, these Tic Tacs weren't actually like seen by the naked eye. They were only seen on the equipment. It was only seen like they only noticed the movement and stuff via the equipment, but it wasn't visible to a person standing on deck or standing in the ship, which makes us think: are we just entering an age now of technology where people talk about the idea of like the apocalypse, as in like the revelation, or just like the veil coming down and stuff? And is that veil now? Like, are we gonna? We all have phones in our pockets that like these infrared filters on our phones aren't really infrared per se. They're just like red. They're just kind of just red filters, and like the night vision filters are kind of just green filters. They're not really like
Mm.
night vision because that's very expensive. It's like military grade technology. But like soon it might be. Soon we might have it on our phones, and now like the government has it, or the military has it, or just people with enough. I can buy very expensive night vision for like $3,000, and according to like Mary Joyce, or no, like in her name, Sutherland, I believe. Melinda Leslie. Sorry, Melinda Leslie runs these tours out in like New Mexico or something like that, out somewhere out west, and claims to see things nearly every single night. Like the podcast I heard her on was like 4 years ago, but at the time she said, "Yeah, I ran like 600 tours And I think 599 of the times we saw things. And apparently the sky is just littered with stuff, but we not within our field of perception. That we need like expensive equipment to like see these things. But once we have that, we're just we're surrounded by stuff all the time. And it's just so like I don't know. What if in 100 years we're all wearing like regular glasses that can like on a whim shift to night vision, shift to infrared, shift to a scope that we don't even know about right now, and it's like, almost like those like that movie 13 Ghosts or whatever, where they put those glasses on, they can see the spiritual realm all around them and stuff. You know, is that the world we're entering? Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit.
No, you're good. And I'm just wondering too if maybe these things will start appearing to more people without all that as well, because
Oh yeah,
just and I hate to keep going back to me, but I never expected
no.
to have a UFO sighting ever.
Yeah.
I've had so many ghost and dream experiences. I never expected to see anything in the sky like that.
Yeah.
And so to have now 4 of these encounters.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right
I mean,
now,
it's
5? I forget now. Man,
I
now
think
I'm
it's
forgetting how many I had.
I want to say it's 5. I want to say
Yeah.
the two original ones that we were talking about that are like a little bit more spaced out, and then you had the 3 in a row, or the 3 relatively recently, right?
That's true. That seems right. Yeah.
Yeah. But by the way, like, I'm outside as we're talking about this. There's a strange amount of planes flying overhead. There's like easily double-digit amount of planes in just a few minutes we've been doing the show so far.
Wow.
Yeah,
Um,
not saying that's a UFO or anything, but
no, but
I mean,
that's interesting.
but like for you, for the you having a sighting, you've had the like the ghost paranormal sightings. So I think that a huge part of the phenomena is like the perception and like the openness to it and like the I don't know we've as a community have gotten these crazy ideas and have gotten more into like how these different topics kind of merge together and stuff. So like all of our minds have kind of opened up to the possibility of different types of phenomena, different types of experience. So it only makes sense to me that like a person who already experiences activity as they're opening up to like a different type of activity would then experience that different type of activity. You know, it makes sense to me. Like I'm jealous, to be honest.
Well, it sounds like you've had a couple as well, but one
Yeah,
I
small
was
ones. Yeah.
talking the other night with a friend. I won't go into detail because we didn't
Yeah.
really talk about this on the show, but about this, and also to answer Apoc's question here, how far up do I feel it was? It was definitely above any of the buildings in my area. Like
Yeah.
it was in the sky. Beyond that, it's hard to say,
Yeah.
but it definitely seemed like it was way up there in the sky. And I've noticed when I've been talking to people lately, um, just online and everything, it does seem like people that I know, or even just tangent, just a little bit,
Yeah.
have also been having experiences.
Yeah.
It's really
It,
amazing. I wonder if there is some kind of weird thing happening where
it's the
more
veil.
people are ready. Yeah, and
Yeah.
maybe that veil is a readiness,
Yeah.
or that level of that, reaching that.
Yeah. It's like a mental veil, like the doors of perception are opening, kind of.
Mhm.
Um, and I always kind of take it, or I'm more used to, or probably known for taking it as a more conspiratorial angle, being like, what are they trying to have us invite in as a culture? Like it kind of all started with the Oreo doing a promotion, like 2 summers ago or whatever, maybe even 3 summers at this point, where they did the UF Oreo offering things, where a package of Oreos that has like basically a welcome mat for aliens for UFOs, and it's like marketed as a UFO offering of like a gifting to these Oreos, which I mean to the aliens of Oreos, which is the same thing you would do for fairies, for elves, for people gift for Bigfoot. People gift like it's for elemental spirits and stuff. Like gifting is something you do to these spirits, these entities and stuff. And
Yeah,
it's like inviting something in, which if it's good, then it's a good thing. But if it's something that we're not sure what it is per se, and might not necessarily be good, then I usually scratch my head and stuff. Especially because like if you start gifting to like elementals or gifting to the Fae, and just like decide to stop, it's not great for you. Like it doesn't really they don't like that very often, which is like why I don't do it myself personally.
Yeah, same here.
You know,
Um,
um, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, odd thing about that too is I've even heard of just people doing that just for spirits in homes.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, and I shared a story a little while back in one of my shows about someone that as a kid went to visit their friends at their house and noticed them leaving I think it was like a cup of Kool-Aid
But yeah,
out and then like the TV on, and they were wondering about it, and they asked them, but they didn't really believe what they were told necessarily so much.
yeah,
And they woke up in the middle of the night and they were half asleep and they went and the TV was loud or making noise, so they went and turned it off.
yeah.
And they saw something that night in the house.
Oh, wow.
And then the next morning, when everything when everything everyone woke up and everything again, they were the people that were there in the house were like, "Oh, you saw something, didn't you?" Like they could
Yeah.
tell they were scared.
Wow.
And they're like, "Yeah, because I got up to use the bathroom and the TV was bothering me, so I went and turned it off." And that's when they realized, "Oh, wait, these other
Yeah.
kids said don't turn the TV off." And there were other nights where the Kool-Aid would be completely either partially or completely gone.
Yeah.
So what is going on there? And that also gets into these other possibility of other maybe like traveling between dimensions because something is obviously taking that Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Exactly.
Something is taking that liquid.
Yeah.
Where it's going,
Exactly.
who knows how it's if it's
Uh,
actually being consumed like a or biological being does, and then this thing is able to just pour it out, teleport out, or fade
yeah.
out. I mean, we don't know because there was no video, obviously, but
Exactly.
apparently it happened enough where they did that like every night.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And this is it's very common. Like we have I don't want to disclose any names, but we have a mutual close friend that we talk to very often who does this every day. Like gifts, like brings milk, like a saucer of milk outside for the elementals and stuff. And
Mm,
it's like extremely common. Like we know a lot of people who do this, and especially in like the more witchy pagan communities, like in even like ancestor altars. If you're not dealing with an actual entity, dealing like a lot of like I believe like Santeria like has like elements of this, and like a lot of different like Christian sects believe this like do some type of ancestor gifting and that type of thing that are like passing items from one side of the realm to the other. And even if they don't take the actual milk or whatever, there's like a an essence that they drain from it, where it's like you're not supposed to drink it afterwards because it's like it's not it's what they drink out of it is like not really physical. It's not like perceivable to us. But just like that whole idea, like I'm more so just mean like it's making contact. Like the first time you do that, you're making contact. You're telling the other side that like, hey, I acknowledge you now. Like, um, so I was curious if to ask if they were trying to get us to do that as a culture, like acknowledge the aliens to get them to come in, or acknowledge the phenomena, the capital P phenomena, to get it to ramp up, or to get it to like have more of an effect, like in our world and stuff. Especially with all the celebrities who were doing the orb summoning and everything, like Demi Lovato and Vanessa Hudgens had an article in like People magazine and like G and like Cosmo and stuff a couple months ago, saying that she uh, can has seen spirits her entire life, like on the regular, and she was like she gave like a how to guide on how to summon spirits yourself and stuff, and like. Kesha has a reality show on Netflix, I think, called Conjuring Kesha, where she's going out there trying to contact these things and stuff. Which, again, all fine, like in a bubble, all fine, and it's just, but it's just my conspiracy brain goes to like, are they trying to like condition the masses or open us up as a collective to bring something in? So that's the conspiracy angle for it. But the non-conspiracy angle is that like just as a zeitgeist, we're opening like this is we call it or I called it. I think like many of us called it the age of like the synthesis. It's like many ideas that were kind of siloed off in their own little departments, their own little categories. Bigfoot over here, ghosts over here, UFOs over here, like spiritual stuff over here, science over here. In this age, we have the internet, we're able to consume all this content that we're synthesizing these ideas. We're realizing, no. Like this has a lot of connections with this. The Venn diagram of aliens and blah blah blah, like have a big crossover. and maybe we shouldn't be like as stringent with like how we're analyzing all this stuff. And with that, I think that is kind of like the opening of our minds, opening the doors of perception that's allowing this thing in. Which I'm not.
Yeah,
I don't mean to sound scary, but I think that's a part of the phenomena. It's like inviting it in, you know,
yeah, no, and
in a good way.
I agree, and I do think it's always good to be careful,
Yeah,
um, because I don't, and everybody that knows me is aware of this. I normally don't try
yeah,
to have activity happen. I really don't. Um, it just usually happens. But even with that thing that the first time that blew up the first time, I was thinking about the possibilities, but I think it's important to point out I wasn't actively trying to
oh yeah, exactly. Yeah,
contact anything.
yeah,
But I still wonder if that even just that openness, like we were talking about, it was enough, you know.
yeah,
And also in the chat here, I do agree with Matt's all always skeptical when it's celebrity, and that's
yeah, for sure.
I think that's a good point. But
Yeah.
also, if you're getting back to the conspiracy angle of everything, even if the stuff they're saying isn't true, it's still again putting it out there.
Well, I think it's
And
true.
getting-
That's yeah. Like when I'm
yeah,
skeptical of celebrities, I don't think they're lying to me. But I think what's their ulterior motive? You know, I try not to
right.
like sound too satanic panicky. Like like if you're talking about the occult, you're trying to get us to be possessed by demons and stuff. That's not what I mean. But I'm a synchro mystic who analyzes where culture is going. So there are people who try to like guide culture, and sometimes I'm suspicious of the way that whether these things are happening organically or whether we're trying to like although people I mentioned are all like Disney kids, so it's like they're not big names for our generation, but like for like a 20-year old and below, it's like saying Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera are summoning orbs and ghosts and stuff, and it's like whoa, that would be a big thing, you know, um,
Right.
like yeah. But we talked a lot about, like, especially in the voice chat for Troubled Minds and everything, um, about how your experience seems like it doesn't give me the willies. It doesn't give me that uneasy feeling. Um, it seems very positive to me and very like non-threatening and just I can't really explain it, but for some reason it gives me like it doesn't give me an eerie feeling, honestly.
Yeah, and that's the amazing thing about it. That in itself kind of does creep me out a little bit. The fact that I'm not
Yeah,
getting that, it's
yeah,
just so annoying that like I have to even
I
kind
know.
of keep that in mind. Or
Yeah,
like there's these two other little parts of my mind that I can't get rid of. That there's that part, and then there's the part that's saying, okay, it's some kind of natural something in the sky that has only recently come into the sky, and the conditions are just right, and you're just seeing it that way. But
yeah. I don't
but
think so.
yes, even
Yeah,
though I'm now a clone, according to some
yeah.
people out there in chat. I did bring that on myself though when I invited it to come in that one night. Um,
Oh, I know. I know. Yeah.
but
It
it's
worked. It
so
looks like. Yeah.
and that's because that's I it's possible because of the sighting or the thing that happened on Tuesday morning where I was outside and I was watching it and I was thinking why are you here? What's your reason for being here? Kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I heard a bump or a knock in the back of my apartment at
Wow.
that moment. And I turned around, I looked at the window, and Logan, my cat, was standing there, so it wasn't her.
Wow.
And no other sounds. And I went inside, and everything was fine. Nothing was broken into, nothing going on. But I feel like that was just some kind of an answer, like maybe like, well, they're just to let you know we're here,
Yeah. Exactly.
kind of thing.
That's what it seems like. Yeah. Why you're here is like to make contact with you, like to engage with you, basically. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
trippy. Yeah.
it is.
Um. Yeah. It's cool. Do you want to get into some of these articles? We don't have to go through the whole things, but just to jog our memory, so we make sure we cover all the bases for different types of contact.
Yeah, just pick out whatever sticks out to you as far as important stuff to talk about. We can go for a little bit with that.
All right. These first few articles are kind of just more so just fast radio burst type stuff, and from Live Science they have an article about the eight ways aliens could contact us. And they're talking about alien megastructures, just kind of just giant things in the sky that catch our attention, basically to let us know something's out there. Laser pulsars, just different ways of kind of just signaling us or signaling civilizations that we'll be looking for them. Just not creating anomalous things in the sky. We have aliens could from physics world. Aliens could use quantum signals to communicate with Earth, which is like pretty much the same thing. It's like the SETI looking for fast radio bursts, but this way it's not limited to like having to pass through distances. It's not trying to like have a radio wave travel from one part of the universe to another part of the universe. It's like happening instantaneously and stuff. And
Right.
it would be a society that is at a level where they understand quantum stuff enough to like be able to observe this or understand what's happening. So it's like a way for that civilization to like filter out anything below that quantum level, I guess. It's kind of the
Right.
crux of it.
Yeah.
Where else? This all right. So it's from Smithsonian Mag, the science of aliens, how would they communicate with us? And they pretty much gave a few of the same things, like the idea of SETI and METI, looking for just these different anomalous signals. But they also talk about different messages that we sent out there and stuff. And in 1974, we sent out the Arecibo radio message to globular cluster M13. My synchro radar goes off with a 13 because there's just a strange amount of 13s and 1.3s that go on with astronomy stuff. And it's basically just sending out a bunch of like the information about us, pretty much. Like we understand math, we understand like DNA, how our bodies work. This is who we are, that kind of stuff. But and
Yeah.
the interesting part about that message is that there was potentially a response to that. There's like a crop circle that allegedly has the same message, but instead of having like carbon in like the elemental chart for humans or whatever, it was replaced with silicon, and instead of having like a human body on there, it had like an alien body. But it's like a crop circle, like basically a response to the message. But there was an article calling it a hoax, but didn't give any reasons why it was a hoax. It just kept saying
Right.
a hoax.
Oh,
But
that's a common thing. It
yeah,
has to be a hoax because it can't be
yeah.
real.
It literally said that.
Yeah.
It literally said it has to be a hoax, quote unquote. It
Wow.
has to be a hoax, without actually giving any reasons why.
Yeah.
Um,
Just real
yeah,
quick, the crop
yeah.
circle thing to me is amazing. That is definitely, I think, a possible form of contact, even to the point where some of the people that have admitted they faked it, they've talked about how they had this weird urge to make it, to
Oh
make them,
yeah, yeah.
and they felt weird while they were in the areas doing that. So to me, I wonder if how many of the fakes are still being somehow initiated or influenced by some other force.
Oh
And
wow.
again, there's the idea that maybe this is from the planet itself.
Yeah.
And I think that's possible, but also if you just take it the other direction, well, that's some other force from out there somewhere.
Wow. I love that idea. Yeah,
Yeah,
my my favorite crop circle idea has been the idea that it's like the animal. I mean the plant kingdom trying to communicate with the animal kingdom in some way. It's using the
yep,
same things we would use to communicate with aliens. That like sacred geometry and like math and to communicate with aliens, being like they're smart, we're the sentient race out there. So it's the plants saying the same thing to us. But what you just said about the feeling people get when they're doing the hoaxing is an incredible idea, James. Like it really fits right into the where does ideas come from, where does art come from, like art being this conduit to the other side and stuff, and messages from the muses or from entities or whatever filtering in through the art, and it's just like like the idea of the culture shifting idea of like what like what are they trying to get us to open up to as a culture? They could be the aliens themselves, and it could be just like even crop circle hoaxes. Just the idea of crop circles and people like was a very popular trope in the UFO world for decades and stuff. And like if you kind of rewind to like say 1999 or whatever, before like it was much more. It's one of the first things people think of when they think of UFOs. So it created a lot of things. It created a lot of impact in the zeitgeist itself. That like it served its purpose, even just the hoaxes alone. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a cool idea. Dennis.
Well, and that the idea of where do ideas come from? That
Yeah,
I said something about that. I forget what it was you shared the other day over in the Trouble Mind server, but it made me think of that. Of we're getting ideas from these other beings out there somewhere
yeah,
that are then being put into popular culture media, and making their way out to the masses, out to everyone just about.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so it's spreading like crazy because of the technology we have now.
Exactly.
And that really is amazing to me. There are some times where it's like I just see what you share and what people share, and it just seems like, yeah, that's it. I mean, that's at least part of it. I don't know.
I never even considered that idea with crop circles. It really, because it is an art too. Like a crop circle hoaxer is an artist. Like that's, even if it's not aliens doing it, that's an impressive thing to like, especially if they're doing it in one night. Like I can't do that. You know, it's and just like doing anything is an art. So, I mean, I don't. It's a really that's a great take, James. It's a really and just to the idea of the pop culture stuff. Um, I'm not sure if we mentioned this on your show before, but the idea of like the Council of Nine in Star Trek. Have I want me to hit that real quick?
Oh, yeah, we can go into that here. I don't think we've done that here.
Yeah. So, like the Cliff Notes version is, I don't have it in front of me, so I might get some of the details wrong. But I believe it's 1952. There was a séance that took place in Maine. Um, definitely in Maine. I believe in 52, but like around the time of Roswell, like the same players kind of with the the psychic medium Andrea Kuriak, something like that's how you pronounce his name, and then a bunch of high-ranking military officials, like admirals and generals in the military. One of the DuPonts from like the DuPont family, the guy who created Epsilon out on the West Coast, and then Gene Roddenberry, like Gene Roddenberry's like mentor, um, who I believe was the Epsilon guy. Was at the seance with this. So this Kiriak character was channeling beings that called themselves the Nine, who they didn't realize who that were, who that was originally until like multiple sessions later. This was like an ongoing study that they were doing, but
Mhm.
making contact with entities who call themselves the Council of Nine, or like the Ennead from ancient Egypt or from ancient Rome and ancient Greece, like the Council of Nine gods or whatever, or in this case, aliens who are from Sirius, who have been intervening with humanity throughout history, and they're the Ennead through all these different mythologies, basically, like Zeus or Atum or whatever, and they basically told or like communicated the idea of the Galactic Federation and the idea that there's all kinds of different advanced civilizations flying around out there in space, basically, and that was like a relatively if you like dig into like 1930s or 1920s sci-fi, that's not really part of it. It's Martians, it's Venusians. That's pretty much it. It's like Moon Men, it's like Mars Men. It's like humans wearing like spacesuits on Mars, basically, or like red people on Mars, green people on Venus. It's no Galactic Federation type stuff. But Roddenberry took that information, gathered in what they call a séance, or at least but it is just a channeling session or whatever, and create a Star Trek. And what the alien community visualizes when they picture the Galactic Federation on many, many, many tropes that are baked into ufology, you can like directly point to Star Trek as where it came from. Which so ipso facto, you can point to a séance with otherworldly entities as like impacting massively like how people perceive aliens, which is just you can make an argument that's not aliens doing it and they're trying to make us think that it's aliens, or you can just make the point that like no, it gave this like information to somebody who then created a huge pillar of pop culture. Either way, it's interesting.
It is, and it's ongoing. I mean, there's still
Yeah.
new Star
Oh, for
Trek shows
sure.
out
Yeah.
there.
We're in a Star Trek boom right now. There's like 6 Star Trek shows happening right now. Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
There's like
Um,
three animated shows and like four, whatever. Yeah. Sorry. Good.
3. I knew there was 2, but I didn't know
At
there was
least two. At least two. At least two. Yeah. Maybe just two.
wow, okay.
Yeah.
But going back to the seance thing, that to me is amazing, and I've heard this before. People talk about how they don't just contact, um, what they say are spirits. They contact other beings
Yeah.
that are said to be aliens, and again, that goes back to the first thing I was talking about today in the show. And I think it's equally important is we really don't know what all this is, what all these beings are.
Exactly.
And we have these labels, but there are labels.
Yeah.
I do think in some cases people do make contact with their loved ones that have passed on.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
I don't, again, as I always say, I believe that everything is possible.
Yeah, me too.
But there are also cases where people have had experiences with seeing aliens and their loved ones
Yeah,
in the same experience, whether it's a dream or it's a out of body or what, just different things. And so that just raises the question: Are these other beings? Are they somehow spiritual, or are they just other forms of energy that can interact with whatever that spiritual dimension is, and they're there, also, the idea that really people throughout time have been making their own, at least partially responsible for their own afterlives,
yeah,
because you hear that as well. If you follow any certain religion, they'll say that theirs is the one version of this afterlife. But then you hear about people that have experiences, whether it's near death or connections with loved ones, and their loved ones appear to be in these different versions of an afterlife.
yeah. It's
So
it's trippy. Marvel's kind of there's a couple memes going around because the MCU has like the Egyptian afterlife, the Egyptian field of reeds. They have Valhalla now with Thor, and they have the ancestral plane, Black Panther and stuff. And in like in the Marvel universe, it is built around belief and built around perception and stuff. So these realms kind of all exist and all kind of fueled by the collective perception, the collective belief of humanity and stuff. So it's kind of whatever spiritual system that you like live in and believe in is kind of the afterlife you're going to experience and stuff. Which just means that the whole game is all consciousness. So it's like if whatever we're dealing with somehow stems from that principle, then like they're we're not that close to finding the answers. It's all questions all day because just the potential is just it's incredible. Like what if just all the phenomena in another 100 years is just going to completely shift again as we shift, And what if it's constantly shifting as we shift, and we can't get we can't wrap our heads around it or can't get our hands on it because it's slippery and constantly moving as we move, constantly just it's like almost like a metaphorical kind of carrot and stick, kind of keeping us chasing it, which leads me to like, what do they chase? Like, what is like, I keep saying but they could be anything. Like, what are they trying to get us to chase? Like, is there an end point? Are they trying to get like move our consciousness to a certain point? I don't know. I don't know, but
yeah, or
uh,
what if it's the collective universe, reality, multiverse
yeah,
that holds the stick
exactly,
there?
exactly, yeah, exactly. Um, uh, Few more things here. We have what's this? Library of Congress has a article, messages to and from outer space, where it kind of chronicles all kinds of different major events throughout history, claiming to have contact with outer space. There's an 1896 newspaper article titled "A Signal from Mars," offered an example of how we might receive communications from a planet. Um, Noticing luminous projections from the southern edge of the planet, suggesting that they're inhabitants flashing messages to Earth. Basically, this guy caught like weird flashes on Mars and thought it was like uh, kind of some like Morse code light signals from Mars. And then talks about in the 20th century, or not talks about in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the idea of development of wireless telegraphy, sending and receiving electromagnetic waves through the air. Offered new method of searching for communication from space. In 1901, engineer Nikola Tesla made the astonishing claim that he was receiving radio communications from Mars. The story is picked up and reported on broadly in the press. And then Marconi, who was also working on like the telegraph and telephone and stuff, said the same thing, that he's an Italian engineer, Marconi, who was also receiving signals. And then Thomas Edison said that Marconi's works, quote, offers good grounds for the theory that inhabitants of other planets are trying to signal us. So like Tesla, Marconi, and Edison were all saying they're building the phone, building these new types of like radio technology, and we're all receiving in their heads uh, communication from aliens and stuff. And then like Tesla took it way in advance. He thought he was getting like telepathic communication from Venus and stuff, and like ended up thinking that he was like from Venus and all kinds of crazy stuff. Like he really went kind of nuts with it. But like we talked about it all a bunch of different times, but the idea that every time we take a jump in technology or form some type of new technology, then the first thing we do is try to make contact with something from the other side, whether it's like the TV and like the white noise, or the telegraph, or telephone, or now the internet, and more like more quantum technology and all kinds of stuff. It's like a new technological door of perception that's being used to try to, it's ipso facto changing our perception. It's fascinating.
Yeah,
Uh,
and if you trace the stories that are people's experiences over the years, it did start with, we've all heard that phrase, phone calls from the dead.
exactly,
Excuse me.
exactly,
And that has changed over the years to include voicemails and or text messages,
exactly,
or even
exactly,
just electronics acting weird in general.
exactly,
Excuse me.
exactly.
So
Even
yeah, keep going. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and this that can be holding with AI too, and actual like people having communications, like the digital Ouija board aspect of it too. Just the idea that if Mattel can contact entities with wood and plastic, then imagine what like the high technology can do, and AI can do, and all kinds of stuff. What different places we can get to.
Especially
Yeah,
with electricity flowing through everything.
exactly, exactly. All right, now we're gonna get some cooler stuff here.
Okay.
Um, from Vice. There's one article titled "How to Write Poetry to Communicate with Aliens," which is just really crazy, and it talks about a digital artist and academic has produced his own answer with a collection of mind-bending poems written in an artificial language that was designed for alien communication. And it doesn't really like talk about how the language was formed per se, but it's called Linkos, or lingua cosma, invented in 1960 by mathematician Hans Freudenthal as a means for alien interactions. Um, he was raised by the possibility it raised that he was inspired by possibilities it raised as both an artistic medium and a cosmic conversation starter. And it doesn't really get into like how he did it, but he envisioned Linkos as a spoken tongue built from radio signals of different wavelengths that are sonified into words. The concept was later adapted into written glyphs by a Canadian astrophysicist, Yvon Dutil, and Stefan Dumas, who called the language, or who used the language to transmit the so-called cosmic call messages to nearby star systems in 1999, 2003. So I think the gist of it is like interpolating radio waves and radio signals using like the wavelengths and creating like an alphabet based on that and using that as a way to communicate. Um, they called it Linkos, which is kind of cool. And making poetry out of it as a way to communicate is a trippy idea. And it says the interlinked poems, written text based on the Dutil Dumas glyphs, touch on essential human themes such as distance, social connections, warfare, our experience of the material universe. The book also weaves in otherworldly depictions of stars examined by NASA's Kepler telescope, which just discovered thousands of exoplanets. Which is just, I don't know, just weird, just this weird abstract combination of art with contact to aliens. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and with science, I do think that there can be creativity in all different kinds of study, and I think science and math, there can be that as well, and inspiration and all of that. And I
Yeah,
think that maybe that is another form of contact.
yeah,
These other beings are sending out ideas to these certain people that maybe have enough, are advanced enough to figure them out and to accept them.
yeah, exactly.
So there's the less mathematical or scientific side of this transmission to people that goes to, let's say, artists or writers.
Yeah,
And then there's the other side of it that goes to maybe scientists and engineers and mathematicians and everything.
yeah.
That's I
It's like
feel like,
engaging. Okay, sorry.
yeah. Oh no, I wonder. I really wonder what would happen if more of those kinds of worlds interacted, and
Yeah,
maybe we get somewhere sooner with all
yeah.
that. Go ahead.
It's like engaging both sides of our brains, like the right and left hemisphere of our brains, and then like also kind of engaging the left and right hemisphere of like the human brain. If we're all some type of collective brain, it's like engaging both those sides. It's cool. Um, these are a bunch of cool ones, but just the point you just made, like I feel like my favorite and probably your favorite too is the idea that they're communicating with us through ideas, and I think that's just like the one that really like tickles my fancy the most and gets my gears turning the most. That just where do ideas come from, and I think that's are like are they there's a joke from the show The Office back in the day, where he's like where like Dwight like the if you know The Office, he's like one of the best characters. But he's like, yeah, I had this plan where I would send Osama bin Laden one piece of one piece of a puzzle like every day for like X amount of time, and then by the end of the puzzle, he'll find himself trapped in his own jail cell or something like that. Like he'll send him one piece of a jail cell at a time until he builds like his own prison, basically. Just as like a stupid joke, but it's just
Right.
like, what if that's what they're doing? They're sending us ideas until we build the other side of the Stargate, or till we build the other side of the radio, until we build the other side of the communication device, where they can either contact us directly, or they just show up here, or they, like what if we're creating the medium for them to. I don't know. It's like what like yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Um,
and
yeah,
just to going back to the Stargate thing, because I've been trying to slowly working my way through that series,
yeah.
and I was watching it and it got me wondering, are are there different size Stargates?
Oh yeah.
Like you see the ones that are in the show a lot of times, and they're kind of, they're big enough for some people to walk through, but are there bigger ones
Yeah.
or
Like
different types?
yeah. I think so. I mean, this is a whole other thing, but like one of my favorite rabbit holes, and before the whole Lovecraft thing, it was probably what I was known for the most. Was like the river portal thing, and the idea of like the ley line portal grid idea, and just I think there's like a natural existing web of stargates that like connect the entire cosmos together, like the way the human body has like a series of energy vortexes called like the chakra or called the chakras, or like it opened up through acupuncture needles. Like imagine like the most like the most needles possible on a person getting acupuncture, and put that from the human body to the earth body. And I think there's just all kinds of portals or stargates of all different size and importance. And some of the bigger ones and more important ones would be like Great Pyramids or Washington D.C. or like like Area 51 or whatever. These just or Stonehenge, these big like paranormal mystical centers. But I think like every town has one. I think they're littered in reservation areas, and they're the cause of missing 411. I think that like religious buildings were on them. I think like government buildings are on them, and I think smaller ones that don't like have the same impact as like these giant massive the way that like we have 7 major chakras, but there's also 12 other chakras, and but there's also hundreds of tiny little chakras. It's like it's of lesser importance, but they're still there, so
Yes, I was
yeah.
thinking that because I've heard that in a couple of different shows recently, actually, about that very thing.
Yeah,
More synchronicities, possibly.
yeah,
But
and
yeah, you can keep going if you want to, but I just want to let you know we've been on for an hour, so it's up to you if you want to keep going.
I mean, I can go for a few more. I have a few more things we got to hit. I think,
Okay, sure.
if you're not trying to get out of here,
No, we're good. Just want to make sure
yeah,
you're good.
yeah, no, for sure. And that ties into the whole like Nassim Harriman idea of like the kind of vortex nature of reality, where like what a vortex that like fractally up and down the line from like the atom to galaxies and universes. At the center of it is all these like energy vortexes, or like even like or just ones and zeros, open and close, on and off, in like binary code, and like the whole universe is just on every level. It's like torsion physics, where everything is working like with the energy vortex in the center of it, basically. Um, so that would be every size up and down the line. Like the center of a galaxy has a black hole in it. The center of like an atom is in a toroid shape. The Earth has like a toroidal shape where energy is flowing inside outside that way. Like it's all it's all stargates. It's all vortexes up and down the line the whole way from
Wow,
that theory.
that's
Which is
amazing.
it's interesting, especially when you get into like simulation theory and the idea of zeros and ones. Like a 0 and a 1 is just open close, on off. Like it's trippy. you know?
It
Uh,
is. Yeah.
yeah. The next article here, we're almost done. But like the next article we have which I think is a little less cool, but like very very extreme. Um, is from New Scientist from a few months ago actually. Aliens could say hello by arranging planets in prime number pattern. A sufficiently advanced alien civilization would be able to arrange the orbits of planets in a star system in a pattern that could never form naturally, signaling its existence to others. Which is a pretty extreme example, and it's there's other kind of theories along the same lines of they could take stars and do the same thing, or create like artificial stars and structures and do the same thing. Um, but like some type of crazy galactic scale manipulation that would signal to a civilization once they get to a certain point, like, whoa, that's not right. Or, whoa, that shouldn't be right. And which is which is interesting. But also like, what if that's what the moon was? And what if like right now we're all at a level where like, whoa, that's no moon. Like it seems a little too weird. It's a little too perfect that it's like exactly the right size to have a full like solar eclipse. That it's like 40 times the sun is like 40 times bigger, but 400 times farther away or whatever. So it's like fully exactly eclipsed, which is like very, very rare. But like we're noticing that now, but it's just a conspiracy theory. You know what I mean? So it's like
Oh yeah.
it's not the clearest form of communication. What if some crazy guy online just starts saying all the planets in the solar system are arranged in a weird order? This couldn't be. That's not proof for anybody. Really, in my opinion.
None of this
You know.
stuff is real. I mean, come on, everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What else we got here? All right, so from futurism from last year, scientists claim that aliens may be communicating via starlight, which is very similar to the idea of just like using different types of lights and energy signals, radio waves, and that type of stuff. Like they tie it into the quantum connection, being able to like entangle light from different stars, so that like you can manipulate it in certain ways to like but again, it's just a trigger. It's like they're trying to filter out our scientists are assuming that like other aliens would be trying to filter out less advanced civilizations and only make contact with ones that are like over the quantum level or over the radio level, etc. But it seems to be that aliens have been interacting with humanity. If it's really happening, it seems like it's happening forever. Like there hasn't been a time where it hasn't happened. Like Columbus saw it when he was coming over here. Like one of the first people in Boston saw it on the Charles River when he was over here. On the Oregon Trail, they're seeing it when they're going across. Like it's cavemen were seeing it. Like they're drawing it. It's like, when have we not been seeing some type of entities in the sky and stuff? So that idea doesn't resonate with me. That like they'd be like waiting for somebody to get smart enough. But
Yeah. No, me either. I feel like, and this isn't like a blanket statement on everything that we've found around the world, but there's just too much out there that these different drawings and carvings that seem to show other kinds of beings.
exactly, yeah,
And maybe, you can say this one or that one might not be real, but what if there's even just one of them that is real, that they did encounter, and that is
exactly,
not human? That's
exactly,
that's alien like. That's different. So yeah, no,
exactly,
I agree.
exactly. I included just in case we needed it, the telecommunication and the occult link from Science Media Museum. It's kind of just rifle. It's kind of just talking about the different things we already talked about, like the 1840s. They had a spiritual telegraph, which used communications to the dead, but like would also be used later with any kind of entities. And then Thomas Edison's spirit telephone. And then a focus on the ET communication in the 20th century, but saying that it's like basically using the same thing. Like Tesla just took the spirit telephone and then advanced it basically. But then it talks about this one thing which I hadn't really heard before, which you might have. The idea of spirit trumpets. And this is one guy. Let me find his name. In 1926, a wireless message was sent in the other direction from solicitor H. Mansfield Robinson submitted a message to the London Central Telegraph Office to be transmitted first to Rugby radio station, then to Mars. In this sitting with Price, Robinson's chosen medium produced wailing shrieks and groans with a Martian love song with Price recorded on the dictaphone. Price was convinced. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. But the idea of a spirit trumpet. Let me. Sorry, I'm trying to find the part of my notes which explain what a spirit trumpet is.
That's okay, but I have not heard of that. But that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Apparently, it was a big thing in the spiritualism movement of like the turn of the century, and I think it's like literally a trumpet that they would use, and apparently it would kind of float. Like it says here, Houdini used the idea of a spirit trumpet to like go after hoaxers, like medium hoaxers and like channeling hoaxers. So I think it's the idea of like the same way ectoplasm was a big thing with like spiritualism movement, and like people would start to hoax exoplasm. I think
Right.
it became like a trope of actually having like a trumpet or musical instrument and like faking it, floating around the room, playing like voices, trying to like play like sounds and like possibly like detect voices from those sounds, pretty much. Um, I think it's kind of like a spirit box type of thing where people use like the radio to try to get words
Yes.
and stuff. I think.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Like an
Yeah.
early form of that. Huh.
Yeah. That's basically it for them. And it kind of talks about psychic contact with UFOs, which we kind of already talked about. Um, but it has this one story here where it gives one of the stories is told by Mary Lynn Noble by her own admission once. Um, she was one of the leading call girls in the Western United States. She was also an alcohol and drug addict seeking to change her life through spiritual studies. In 1982, exhausted and depressed, she visited her parents in Montana. One evening, as they were driving in the country, a flying saucer appeared, bathing the car in light. Noble's parents, who were, quote, just frozen there, seemed unaware of the UFO's presence. Meanwhile, Mary Lynn, in her astral body, was being drawn into the craft, where she felt absolute ecstasy, total peace, womb-like warmth. Quote, I'm so glad to leave that body, I thought. She communicated telepathically with a, quote, presence who gave her a, quote, new soul with new energy, new humility. The next thing she knew, she was jolted back into her physical body. From that point, her life began to change for the better. She found a good job and joined AA, where she met the man she would marry. Her psychic contact with the ET she met aboard the saucer continues, and she had written an unpublished autobiography, Sex, God, and UFOs. But that's just like that's just one story. I think it was kind of fun, but like it gets into all kinds of things. The idea that these whatever these things are, I mean, take that story with a grain of salt. Take it. She wrote a book about it. Take it with for what it is. But like just the idea that something the elements from that story are not that unique where these things can make contact with people even in like a crowd. She was with like her parents and her parents were just in a trance. They didn't see it and it communicated just with her. She said it actually abducted not her physical body but her astral body, you know, which is whoa, you know. Could that be happening like when we're dreaming? Could that be happening when we're getting to the trances? Like I don't know. Like you can get a trance during the day and not even realize it. You can be kind of just watching TV, get into the zone, and 20 minutes passes, and you're like, oh, where'd the time go? And we're just writing it off. And for all we know, our astral body is floating somewhere, talking to aliens and getting sent back, and we wouldn't even realize it. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, we haven't even gotten into the whole kind of the standard models of contact and even abduction stuff. That's a whole
Yeah, yeah,
other
true,
thing
true.
that I don't think we really need to get into. If
Nah,
you look
nah.
around online enough, you'll find all kinds of stuff about that.
Yeah,
But that does hint at that, and I feel like in more recent years, I've heard more about those kinds of non-physical experiences
yeah,
that you didn't used to hear about all the time. It used to always be physical.
exactly, exactly. And I wonder if like, and that's being reflected in the mainstream too. Like, I know you're not a big Marvel movie guy, but if you're gonna see one, see Doctor Strange, and that like they have all kinds of scenes where they literally he's this surgeon in the I mean that's the comic lore too, but in the movie he's like depicted as a surgeon who's very very non-believer in anything spiritual, but in order to fix his hands he has to like he travels to Tibet trying to find these mixed mystics and stuff, and he's basically like, oh, this is all BS, until he's literally like the one famous scene that has all the gifts and everything people post online where he's literally like shoved by the ancient one and like his astral body is pushed out of his physical body, and
Oh,
that meme is just all over the place. So that picture alone transformed the zeitgeist of at least Marvel movie fans. You know, it's fascinating. Like the astral. I don't know. We're the 10 years ago. You say astral to a person off the street, they don't know what you're talking about. Say astral to somebody now, they know what it is, or they at least have some type of pop culture thing that they can reference. You know. I know we're getting late, so there's another article talking about occult and the UFO. It's pretty similar to the occult and the spirit thing, but just talking about how these trances involves an altered state of consciousness, sleep-like condition, where you're talking to a discarnate, or enables the subject's body to be used by a discarnate spirit or paranormal entity. It's just in such states, telepathic communication is often said to take place, which is very similar to like, or it's basically what channeling is. There's
right.
a ton of alien channelers. Like probably the most famous one is Bashar, who's a pretty impressive. Even if you don't really believe in channelers, like if he's making it up, he's a very impressive actor at the very least. But there's a whole community of people who claim to make psychic contact where they're channeling entities that are like too far away or don't have physical bodies or even other time periods. Or I believe Bashar is like channeling his ancestor or something like that from like a million years from now or something crazy like that. But
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
time definitely I think is an aspect as well, and um in these experiences, and we don't know where or when these are coming from, all these different beings.
exactly,
So
exactly.
yeah.
It talks about all the seances we talked about, clairvoyance, spiritism, which is channeling again. The practice of attempting communication with departed human or extra-human intelligences, usually non-physical, through the agency of human medium. Automatic handwriting, which we know about. Peering into crystals is a form of divination and fortune telling. Occultists describe it as gazing into glass. The clairvoyant enters into trance-like state to view future events. And famously, they have the crystal skulls that are like tied to aliens, and which is probably a whole other rabbit hole. But the Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, these things are like the actual skulls of these aliens or whatever they are. They come from the actual alien bodies and stuff. But
That's
which I,
that's amazing because sorry to cut you off real quick, but that's amazing because I've heard that people get telepathic messages from some of these skulls.
oh yeah. That was the movie that like people were finding the skull, or like gazing into the skull's eyes and like going crazy from it because like, it was driving him mad, and Indiana's friend, like best friend, were like found the skull, found one of these skulls, and was like being driven mad by it, but he was getting like coordinates and map directions to go to find like the rest of the skulls or go to find like the alien ship or whatever. But then, spoiler alert for this movie that everybody hates, and it came out like 15 years ago. Um, and I didn't even realize it until I rewatched it a few months ago. But they're not aliens from space. So at the end, they like this saucer kind of starts the saucer kind of is in this old ancient temple or whatever, and you think, oh, they're gonna fly, they're gonna beam off into outer space. But then the saucer starts rotating extremely quickly, and then just kind of like phases out of reality. And then like the crazy guy goes, oh, they're going home, not space, but the space between spaces. And it's like saying that they're phasing in and out from a different reality, which I thought was a cool thing to have in 2008 or whatever it was.
Wow.
Yeah,
And that's a whole other thing. Where do they come from? I do more and more now. I think I don't. I have a hard time with completely discounting the idea that there's some that come from, you know, way across out there somewhere. But also, I feel like there's definitely some that seem to be here and have been here and
exactly,
continue to be here, just hiding or in different levels of reality or whatever. So yeah,
exactly.
that's really interesting.
All right, just two last points just to wrap it up. Just make sure we include everything. So this is a all-encompassing episode,
Oh,
which I
this
think
is
it is
amazing.
so far.
Thank you. This
Yeah,
is amazing. Yeah, thank you for being here and doing this.
no problem. It's fun. Um, uh, is the so from Leafly? I think it's just a blog or whatever. But just to get us talking about it, is the key to alien communication psychedelics? This person gets into like talking about the Amazonian brew of ayahuasca. It has the molecule DMT. McKenna talked about DMT is able to open other worlds to quote conscious and intelligent beings that he called DMT elves and stuff. And then so this is off the article, but a lot of these DMT elves are things that people like claim to be like look very much like aliens, or the things that people encounter on shamanic journeys or near-death experiences or alien abductions. It's very similar to what people experience when they're on psychedelics too. So are psychedelics? I've never taken them myself personally, so I'm not positive, but I've listened to many accounts of it, and it seems to be that like this thing is same way we've been talking about, just opening the doors of perception, changing the reality that we experience is just a small sliver of what's there. We can't see infrared, we can't see night vision, we can't hear radio waves and stuff. Like we know that our five senses are taking in reality and like making it into an image that is presented to us as the reality that we're walking around in. But we know that's like 5% or less, like 1% of what's actually there. So by taking a substance or doing some meditation or like running a long way or some type of weird pain thing that different like tribes would do and stuff, or something to shift the consciousness, shift mind. So to open up that sliver to see go from 5% to 10%, or even just move the sliver. So rather than see this 5%, you see a different 5%, to just shift our perspective to get us to see things that are potentially all around us all the time. You know?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
believe that's possible. And the whole idea about the different, I think that there's a connection to that, to the psychedelics, and also just to different states of consciousness that we can reach, or that we reach either accidentally or on purpose.
Oh, for sure.
And
Yeah.
that those definitely are, they do seem to be pathways or portals
Yeah.
to these other
Exactly.
places, and to see
Exactly.
these other, and make contact with these other beings. So yeah,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
keep going there. Yeah.
Even like the hypnagogic state, like the idea of like waking up and kind of being in like a trance-like state, or just being in a like when you're in the middle of your shift at work versus when you just wake up for 10 minutes in the middle of the night, your perspective is different. That's a sliver of reality that you're experiencing, is a slightly different reality, with like a slightly different sliver. So that's why people often experience like shadow beings or weird things at the foot of their bed, or just anomalous things that you don't see by the daylight. And is it because these things are afraid of daylight, or is it because these things are just can only be seen when we're in a certain mental state? And like people say, like, I like to believe that there's actual portals at these sacred spots and stuff, but in like these like Stonehenges and like sacred temples and stuff. But there's like a more skeptic, like scientific minded person would say that like no, there's an like electromagnetic magnetic effect that's like manipulating elements of your brain, that's like actually shifting the way like you're perceiving things in your physical brain. So like it's not that you're like walking into a doorway in Stonehenge and seeing entities, or entities are walking out of a doorway and you're seeing them. It's just no, your mind has been shifted by like a certain magnetic anomaly that exists at this site. So the site was built here because of it, that allows your perception to shift to a place where you can see these things. You know?
Yeah, and I wonder if, again, going back to the electronics, I wonder if power, um, sources of power can make hotspots as well.
Oh,
Again,
bad, bad.
I go
Yeah,
back to that power box that's right behind my place,
yeah,
and you think
I'm
of all
sure.
the experiences I've had here, and I mean that even if you include that blue orb,
Yeah,
it's not far from, from that power box.
yeah.
So, but
It's
yeah, I think
interesting.
there can be natural and artificial
Yeah, for
energies
sure.
that can make contact with different things. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. No, no, for sure. And like, what if these things are non-physical and they need a medium to like move around in, or like one of the mediums that exists like on our small sliver, but also for them happens to be electricity. So we notice when they are around electricity, or they view electricity, or like electrical outlets, or electrical like boxes, electrical driven technology, as kind of like it knows it's a Stargate for them. It knows it's like a travel vehicle for them, that like it gets into the wires and it's anywhere that the wires are touching. It's almost like using it as like highways and stuff. Um, then it's just that's the thing is just talking about crop circles again, which we've already covered, and just talks about like the wow signal, which is when some guy from SETI was observing all these radio waves coming in, and he like was analyzing them and detected one that's like extremely anomalous, and like highlighted it, circled it, and wrote wow next to it. And it's probably the most famous strange radio wave message, quote unquote message that we got. People don't know what it means or anything, but we would be remiss to not include it in this episode. So the wow signal, and then there's the golden disc that Carl Sagan sent out that has all kind of music on it, and like um, the human DNA and all that kind of stuff on it, which we talked about briefly. But those are all the big, major, classic contact things. So I figured we might as well toss those in here. But yeah, what do you think, James? Crazy stuff.
It is, and definitely, and I always wonder, and this is kind of, I didn't used to think this way, but after making certain friends online, I wonder now about all those signals that we get, and then they're explained away.
I don't,
Are they all really explained away? Like,
I don't
are
know,
they
me
all
too.
really just natural?
Yeah,
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder how much of that is being just kept hidden,
yeah,
and what they really found,
yeah. And it makes me
and
wonder.
there's no way to know. But yeah, go ahead.
It makes me wonder. Sometimes these signals can be like kind of these carrots and sticks too that like that send out some kind of crazy thing that we don't understand yet, but it like drives technology. Like it'll drive a scientist or something like that to invent a technology to proceed. Like, oh, we're detecting some kind of anomalous wave. We have to invent a machine that's able to analyze this wave. Like, or we're getting like let's say before infrared machine was created, it's like, oh, we're detecting some type of anomalous energy radio wave type thing, but we can't see it in our machine. Let's create something that can detect it. Okay, we have infrared now, and then infrared can then allow us to then see UFOs. You know what I mean? So what if that's part of it? What if these things are sending signals down to get us to create technology that then gets us to be able to communicate with them directly? You know, like it's getting us to like it's sending us instructions for us to get us to like drop our own veil. You know, like lift our own veil up on our own, like by us, like on our own. You know, just it all goes back to where do ideas come from, and I think that's like the I just love that like we both find that so interesting, and it always goes back to that to me.
Yeah, me too. And I always wonder what people think of that. If like anyone gets tired of that whole idea.
No,
I kind of feel like maybe they would, but at this
no,
point,
no,
I'm sorry. There's too many things
too many things. Yeah,
that seem to add up to where do they come from? How is it that they go through everything? They go through popular culture.
yeah,
Popular culture then inspires technology that we
yeah,
use that then gets these weird signals that then makes the technology advance more
exactly,
because people need to figure out what the signals are. People that hear about this and write more fiction based on it.
exactly,
All
exactly.
these weird circles, and it really is amazing to consider all this because I think it's all connected, and I think the only other thing I wonder is how many, if there's not just one consciousness that's doing all this,
Yeah,
how many are there and what are their motives? If there's not
I
just
know,
one,
I know, I know.
that's the ultimate question to me. Because if there's just one and it's just doing this to advance reality or whatever, or just life or whatever experiences, that's
Yeah,
one thing. But if there's other individual, either beings or species of beings that have their own agendas, that complicates things quite a bit.
yeah, for sure. When we get into like the big grand, like what are they trying to get us to open us up to the big zeitgeist type stuff? I
Yeah,
usually lean towards like the something negative or like just kind of one thing kind of guiding everything. But like at the end of the day, like I'm like you, I don't want to exclude anything. So I think there's literally like infinite things. If we can think of it, there's a good chance, like under the idea of infinite realities or just like even just infinite space in of itself. It's just that's what infinite is. It's yeah, it's everything, you know. So I think like there's things that are probably purely good and purely evil. There's things that are probably purely neutral, and then literally everything up and down the line, all in between that, all like 70% good, 30% bad, 20. Like I mean, like just like every possible different like so many people are. You bad people, good people, and just like different types of entities. Like honestly, like, I like to call it metaphysical anthropology because we just don't have the maps, we don't have the names, we don't have these things, and it's like every category of alien or every category of cryptid or every category of being is its own like book or novel or dictionary series trying to chronicle just that one category. And then you move on to the next category, and it's a whole other epic. And then what about the crossover between the two? And just I don't know. It's a never ending battle, which can seem daunting, but I feel like when we talk about it like this, it makes it fun. You know, I don't know.
yeah. So just a few comments here from the chat. um, Matt Sala says, "I believe in the crystal skulls, but I didn't like the Indiana Jones movie."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. You're not alone with that.
yeah. Thank you, APOC. I see your comments there as well. APOC says that I should pin this episode to the top of all my social media spots.
Yeah,
So I might just do that because this has been
it's epic.
possibly the longest one,
Yeah.
excuse me, we've ever done. And yeah, I think Matt Sala likes the that phrase there, Derek, the metaphysical
Oh,
anthropology.
thank you.
Going back to the good and evil thing, I do think you are right. I do think there are gradients of it, levels of it, and
Gradients, yeah. It's a word. Yeah.
yeah, and different people may seem one way, but then just and even beings.
Yeah.
Again, that's the really main thing to me here is we always have these ideas in culture and in any circle that, oh, everything paranormal is good
Yeah,
or everything paranormal is bad. I don't really believe either of those. I really
yeah,
don't.
uh,
I think it's a lot more. As another friend of ours, Michael Strange, says, it's complicated,
it's very complicated. Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think it's we have to just when we have any kind of experiences. I always say this: go with what you're feeling. If you
Exactly.
don't now, feeling frightened is different, and I think we have to. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about more the feeling of does this seem to be positive, where it's just trying to communicate,
Yeah,
or a negative where it's trying to influence
yeah,
or do other things.
exactly.
And I think that's really the biggest question there.
Yeah, like
So
I don't think
yeah,
these are, I don't think these are new entities. These things didn't. These are things weren't just born yesterday or just arrived here last month and interacting with us now. I think it's something that we've been dealing with for the course of human history and probably just life in general. There's just constantly this mishmash of all kinds of different layers of life and stuff. So it's just I think probably we're our, we probably already have the tools inside us to like be able to navigate these like slippery waters, and that's probably what intuition is partially, and that's probably why we get these strange feelings and what goosebumps are and why the hair stands up on the back of our necks. Like we have these ingrained things that like evolution or whatever gave us because we've been dealing with weird spooky stuff forever, not spooky in a bad way, just spooky in a anomalous way, just we've been trying to uh we've been interacting with non-physical things probably forever before we had like language and stuff. And for all we know, this is the most ignorant we've ever been about it. Like we're in this dark ages of not understanding what it is, not understanding what goosebumps are, not understanding what like is happening in our dreams, and not understanding what these different things that our ancestors maybe had a much better understanding of. Um, so like, and that's all to say. I think intuition. I think like the trusting your gut thing is not just some flowery phrase. I think it's like important, and I think it's like a real thing that um is built in. It's built in. Like we're built in to, like, yeah. I don't know. Especially
yeah,
with with your thing. Like, uh, we joke about, oh, don't invite these things in, don't invite these things in. But like, I don't know. Like, I trust you. Like, I trust your gut. You trust your gut, and like you say, it's good, and it gives me like a good feeling. It doesn't make me like go, oh, James. Like, it makes me go, oh, wow, James. Which is the difference. Yeah.
yeah, and excuse me, my voice seems to be going, but um,
So we're talking a long time.
the yeah, no, this is amazing. But the thing I think too about that is, I think if we don't trust that, then if we have multiple experiences over the years and we're just always afraid of it,
Yeah,
that's not going to be a fun way to live.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
That's
Yeah,
just that's going to lead to other negative effects, I think. And so, yeah, I think it is important to just go with what you feel like, and
yeah,
not to say that you'll always be right, but I think you'll be right more often than you'll be wrong.
yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. Don't paint anything in too broad of a brush. Just go from experience to experience. Don't limit your experience. That's a big part of it. But yeah,
exactly, that's why I say I don't know. I call the blue orb thing kind of a UFO experience, but I really don't know what it is.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's an experience for sure, a phenomenal experience. So say that.
It is,
Yeah.
and we'll see
But
what
James,
happens tonight.
oh, I know. I feel like we're gonna see one tonight. I'm getting the feeling too. This is I don't know. Our minds are both in UFO mode tonight for sure. So if it's gonna happen to me, hopefully it happens tonight. I'll let everybody know. I'll post those pictures too in the chat when we're off here. But
Yeah, well, thank you so much for doing this. This has been amazing. Like I said, I don't think I've ever done a show this long. That is my show. If it is, then it's close that to being the longest, and it's been amazing the whole time. And thank you so much for mentioning all those articles. I know, in case anyone was wondering about this, there's just too many
oh, so much stuff. Yeah,
to try to include all of them in the stream chat here. You have to scroll
yes,
down so much just to get through everything.
yeah, it's too much
So
stuff. Too much stuff. But yeah, no, thank,
yeah,
thank you for having me, James. And I had a lot of fun. So just as long as everybody had fun, like, I wasn't keeping you here for too long or boring you or boring the audience. But no, I had a blast. Thank you very much. Anytime you want.
well, the audience seemed to really enjoy it as well, so I think we're
All
good
right, good,
there.
good, good, good.
So But
All right, I'm gonna mute up,
thank
but
you.
thank you,
Yeah,
brother.
no problem. Thank you as well. So yeah, this has been great. Thank you all for being here in the chat as well. And I think that'll do it for tonight. Tomorrow night I'll be covering paranormal news, and it does look like I will do another extra news show on Friday. So thank you all again for everything, for your support, and for being here. And I will talk to you tomorrow night on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.